Welcome back to another DT Wellbeing podcast with me, DT. Now, guys, I am very happy, and I think you all should be, to hear of the new guest that I have on this evening. So, Micheal not only is he an ex-teacher like my good self, which I actually have top of the list of interesting things about Micheal, because you know us teachers, we're a special breed. Television presenter, entrepreneur. He's had the pleasure of interviewing me on 3 occasions, so this is my first time to be able to turn the screw. So, Micheal, how are you, sir?
I'm feeling very nervous because it is usually me talking to you, so I feel like there's a lot of payback to happen this evening.
Rightfully so. If there's one time we should be nervous, Micheal, it's this time.
I actually am.
But to be fair to you now, and I must give you credit where it's due, you were very kind to me on all 3 occasions. You could have been far crueler, especially on that first time that we met. I gave you a few kind of nuggets against me. I was like, please don't, and you didn't. So I'm glad for that. So today I'll be kind in return. So, as I said, I just gave a kind of snapshot as to what you do with your life and what you've done up to now. But I know you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about you and what you're doing in all of those worlds. But so I just said, those are things that I'd like to talk to you about today. Maybe your experience as a teacher, why you went in and why you potentially have come out. Why I know you're still involved balancing television presenting and education, which I think something is fascinating. Maybe whether you're open to, like, what's next for Micheal, and you have your own company. There's so much to talk about. Well, let's start from the top. Micheal, the teacher. What was that like for you? And was it primary or secondary you were, Micheal?
Yeah, it was primary, and I suppose it's kind of really mad now, because what I realized for the first time last July was that I'm now in TV for longer than I've been in teaching. So I'm in this is kind of, if you want to call it in years, this is like my 7th year now in the media industry, and I taught for 6 years. So it's like, for the first time ever, this is kind of now seems to be becoming my possible path in life. But I mean, I don't know, who knows. I mean, I suppose for me, Daniel, teaching began many years before I started teaching. I mean, since I was probably, I think the first time I ever thought about teaching was when I was in 4th class. Actually, I do remember exactly when it happened. And I had an amazing teacher myself, which often happens with people who want to be teachers. His name is Mr. Breslin, and he is well known in Letterkenny. A lot of people, Master Breslin, I should say, as we called him back then, to give him his full title. Mm-hmm. And he was just an amazing. He was just, I always liked primary school. I have to say, primary school I loved. I really, really loved it. We had a great school. You know, I loved the social aspect. I loved learning. I was supported at home well. You know, I was at a very great and lucky upbringing, you know, and school was something that I really enjoyed. So it was always kind of there that, you know, teaching was going to be at some stage relevant to my career, because, as I said, this teacher inspired me. I always wanted to do it myself. When I'd go home, you know, when I was only a kid, and myself and cousin just to play, we'd play school sometime and stuff, and I'd be the teacher, and this kind of developed, you know.
Yeah.
So long story cut short, I went through secondary school, and like, I would have a lot of varied interests, and a lot of teachers, I'm sure yourself, Daniel, would say this, you know, it's something that probably teachers have maybe more than other paths, because, you know, a lot of teachers have interest in arts or in sports or in music or in geography. And I think teaching is one of those careers that lends itself to all those things. So if you're kind of like me and you're kind of like a jack of all trades but a master of none, you know, a lot of people, you know, that's my experience of it, for me anyway. I was like, you know, teaching can work out well that way. So I always kind of then, you know, secondary school, I had other interests. I was hugely into music. I still am. And one of my really real dreams, and one of the really real things that I wanted to do for years when I was in secondary school, when I was older, was to be a professional orchestral player. I wanted to play in orchestras throughout the world. I spent a lot of weekends, and my main free time was tied up with touring with quartets. I studied music in America, and I got a scholarship to go twice to this kind of Apple Hill in New Hampshire, which was amazing. And I played along. I did internships with the RT Symphony Orchestra, the Ulster Orchestra. So there was this whole part of me that I loved. And I mean,
And
I
what did
really
you play?
wanted to
What
do
was your instrument? And what did you play?
the old fiddle, the violin.
Oh, wow. Are you
Oh,
saying that
no,
with a Cork accent? I'm not to go that way.
I'm trying. You bring it out of me. You bring it out of me.
Well, look, and I'm not going to complain because I mean, like, this is the smallest violin with the flowers. But anyway, so I didn't know that about you at all, man. So that's really cool. And so, Jesus, like 2 scholarship opportunities in America. That's like that. You know, we won't rule it out just yet, Micheal, because you're the type of fella now that throws his hands to a lot of things and has done lots of things. But that's like multi-talented individual we're talking to here, guys. Didn't I warn you, followers, that we're dealing with a kind of a phenom here? So let's better. So when you did do your leaving certs, where did you study private teaching? Afterwards, where did you?
Well, yeah. Basically, I went to Marino, College to in Marino, and the reason I went there is because they had a big beam, they had a big emphasis on Irish. So St. Pat's and Mary I would be very big colleges for teaching in Ireland, probably the most popular. But what I liked about Marino was the fact that they had a real emphasis on the Irish language, and a lot of their subjects you could do through the Irish language. And in fact, right now, just give them a little plug because they were a great college. Right now, they actually have, for the first time ever, you can totally train as Gaelic to be a teacher, which is, I think, the only college that does that. So that was amazing. Like, and yeah, I went there. No, I say amazing. It was 4 really hard years, and no more than yourself, Daniel, we were part of Trinity. So we got our degree from Trinity, and we lectures there, and we graduated from there. So we kind of had this little country college vibe in Drumcondra where we had small classes, 30, this is now in college I'm talking about. Those 30 of us in a class. We used to have like 7 hours of lectures a day on average, I'd say, and it was intense. I mean, we'd have assignments, we'd have kind of homework to do, then we'd have our Trinity exams. They were tough. Like, so it was 4 years that I definitely enjoyed, but I wouldn't do it again. And it's because I actually found it really challenging in loads of ways. I found it really challenging in loads of ways, but particularly academically speaking, it really, really, and anyone who's been there will testify to this, until you do that course yourself or teaching courses in general, I don't think people who don't do them actually understand how intense it is. And, okay, I remember my friends, who I was living with on campus and stuff, and I was living on campus in Reno, would see us going out doing little treasure hunts during the day, and we'd be doing PE lessons, and and that did happen, and it was great, but there was so much more to it than that. So it was really intense, but it really, really trained me well and prepared me well for the professional teaching world.
Fantastic. And was that concurrent as well? Were you out in teaching practice during those 4 years?
Completely, yeah.
And like, that's just energy draining. I remember that as well, the teaching plans, the reflections, the actual like looking after like 30 kids at a time while you're that young. It's just like, it was a lot, as well as studying for your exams that you're just, like other people in college would be doing as well. It was tough, but I remember the exact same thing, because like all my mates were studying to be like lawyers and like architects and things like that. And I was literally learning how to juggle. I was in the sports hall, and I was like, that is clown college to me. I was like, no, it's tough. But yeah, look, but a real talk, and like I know any teacher that's come through would say the same thing. It's just intense, and it just requires a lot of energy, but it's brilliant. And I think, like what you said there, teaching isn't something that, like, there are a certain type of people that make it as good teachers, and they've known for a very young age that was something that they wanted to do. And it just, I like when you were saying there that you realized in primary school that you wanted to be a primary teacher, I just so remember in secondary school, the whole time I was like, I wanted to be a secondary school teacher. My dad was there, he was in the school teaching, but my mom was a primary school teacher at home. And even though there was lots of other options and lots of things, I was like, no, I'm a teacher. And like I'm still a teacher. Like that's still how I see myself, and I know you're the same. And even though now we've gone into different industries, we'll always be teachers in some capacity, because I think you're born one, and I think it's a vocation as opposed to a profession. But you immediately exude teacher vibes, and I can told I do too. So we'll do that forever, which is good. And the transition to television. So obviously you said now that you're in television longer than you were a teacher. So you were a teacher for 6 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I was the exact same. I was a school teacher for 6 years. And now you're 7 years in this new industry. So tell us about that. How did it come about? What have you been doing in that industry? Kind of catch us up on those 7 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, it was never the plan, right? Didn't matter how many different things I was interested in. TV was something that was never going to be an option, because, like, to me, it was like a dream job that you would dream about. like becoming a professional footballer or an astronaut or something. It was probably never going to happen, but I mean, nice to have dreams. So, I mean, definitely, look, did I want to be a presenter when I was younger? Yeah, but I mean, I never really thought more about it than that. And I mean, I never really was great at drama, to be honest. One of the things I definitely wasn't good at was drama. I'm not a great actor. So I never really went down that route. So it was, if I was going to do arts, it was going to be music for me. That was always it. And then that didn't happen really when I went teaching, which was fine. But so the TV thing was never going to really be an option. But what happened actually was, which is very random because it's not really the route that some people who go into TV follow. I mean, a lot of people go and study it in Ballyfermot and Dunleary and here GMIT and whatnot, and they do really good courses in production and whatnot. And I guess I didn't do that, you know. But what happened for me was, so as I was saying, I had taught for 6 years, and I loved it. Have to say, I love teaching. When I started teaching, I did not regret it at all. In fact, I probably grew to like it more. But having said that, I was very young. So I was 17 starting college, 20 starting teaching, 26 when I taught for 6 years. I was lucky, like I was permanent from day one, very lucky. So I never had to look for jobs. You know, I kind of got in there, was in a great school that I loved, tough school, but a great school that I really, really enjoyed working in, great staff, got a lot of fulfillment out of it. It was a disadvantaged area, so that's a different story. But anyway, an amazing, amazing 6 years I spent there. But what I guess I was feeling was, I was like, okay, I'm 26 now. I mean, I could stay here for the rest of my life and that's fine, but there has to be more to life than this. You know, and I felt like, you know, a lot of my friends were doing the J1 thing, and a lot of my friends had started going to Dubai and taking the year out. And I hadn't. I had gone straight from secondary school to a very intense teaching course into a very intense teaching job in a disadvantaged area. So it was really, there was no stop to it. It was just a real, it was work, really. Work that I enjoy, but still work. And I thought to myself, you know what, like, I'm young now. I have no real responsibilities. I had no partner. I had no car. I had no house. I was like, I want to start doing more things. So I applied for a career break from my school, which I was granted. So one of the perks, as I'm sure you know yourself, Dan, in teaching is, you know, if you are permanent, you can get a career break and you can go away for up to 5 years and walk back to your job. So, I mean...
Mine ran out last year, by the way. I had to resign, unfortunately.
I want to know. But that was it. Like,
that is a beautiful perk for sure. And it kind of gives you that confidence, you know, have a safety net. I still want to do other things, but it was so silly not to avail of that safety net. And yeah, I would have done something very similar in 2016. And so when you decide to make that career break, were any of those on the, like, did you, when you had gone through the process of filling out all those forms and you're on a career break, did you know what you were doing immediately? Did you have a plan?
Yeah, I had a plan. I was going to go abroad and possibly never come back. Okay. Yeah, basically, I'd done all the research. I'd got the trail finders. I'd done all the, you know, I had the whole plan done of the year tour, kind of a thing where I was going to do, because I was actually quite badly traveled. One thing that music kind of took from me, it's not really a negative, but because it was so big in my life, all my free time and summers and weekends and holidays were spent playing music with people, which I loved. But it meant I hadn't traveled very much. Costa del Sol in London was about the height of it, so I really needed to travel more, and I wanted to travel more. So my plan was South America to start. Let's have a bit of crack there. Maybe might do Route 66, and we might go to, you know, Thailand and, you know, not Australia, New Zealand actually. So there was a rough plan there. The research was done. I had gotten a career break. June had come. I said, you know, goodbye for now to my colleagues. I had the going away parties. I got the presents. I got the money. It was all going to happen. July came. The countdown was on. 4 weeks to go. So exciting. And next thing, out of the blue, up comes this post from TG Caher on their Facebook page. And basically, the post was saying that they were looking for a new presenter for their young people's programming, the continuity. So I actually can't exactly remember what made me apply for it. I think a friend of mine sent it to me. A friend of mine who, as you said there now, right, there's a teacher air about you, right? But my friends would always be taking the piss out of me for this, and they were like, oh, you're such a teacher, you know. Even though I hated it, but anyway, You're not wrong. No. So one of my friends sent us on, like, oh my God, do you prepare for this, apply for it? And I was like, well, look, number one, I have no TV experience. Number two, my Irish is not great. It's okay, I went to an Irish school, but, you know, I haven't spoken Irish in 4 years, and I have no Irish in my upbringing. I'm not a native speaker. You know,
I didn't know any of that. I presumed you were.
Oh, yeah.
I presumed you were.
No. No, it's not at all. So I mean, like, I was like, okay, look, I will apply for this for the absolute crack. I think the application was simple enough. So I was like, I threw it off. So long story cut short, I got an email back asking for more information. So I sent on a CV. Then I got asked to come and meet them. And so I had to send a show reel on first, which I didn't have. So they asked me to record myself with my iPad talking about a toy or something. So I sent that off. Then I got called for an audition, then a screen test, then a second screen test, and then ended up getting the job. Totally was not the plan. Happened.
Route 66, forget about it.
I mean, the thing is, right? Was it a hard decision to make? No, because this was something that was never going to come along again. If I had decided to go abroad at that stage, this would never have come across my way again. I mean, they look for presenters once every 4 or 5 years, and I was lucky enough to somehow have gotten through the process and filtered through the cracks and gotten this job, you know. And I was like, look, I got to go for this. I have to go for this. This is too good opportunity to miss. So that was it. So then I began as a presenter for the very first time on national television. And in fairness to them, the TG Caher back team and production team and editors and producers trained me up and put in so much work and time with me, and gave me an absolutely unbelievable foundation in presenting and then producing and then directing. And then 7 years later, here I am. And
man. What a journey already. And you're still such a young man, and we're still only kicking things off. But holy shit, that's a story already. You could write an autobiography, you're not even halfway through your life. Awesome, man. That is really, really class. And like, how did you find that, right? So like, teachers are teachers, as you said. So we're born teachers, and, you know, teachers have a lot of positive traits, but we're also like, you know, we're interpersonal. We can be quite sensitive, emotional, you know, we value education, we value interpersonal relationships, and, you know, we can be empathetic. Like, teachers by virtue, you know, that's who we are. So how did you find, you know, now all of a sudden being in the media and being in spotlight and being, you know, like, there's not, you know, television, you're literally putting yourself out there. Like, so how did you find that?
Like, initially, I was definitely worried about it because I knew I was the underdog. I was going into something that was a totally foreign environment. Now, I have to say, I actually always do well in weird situations. When I'm under pressure, I perform my best. So I actually love challenges. For example, traveling abroad on my own, or like doing something that's real, other people might find tricky. Like, I actually really thrive in situations. So I was worried to the extent that, like, this was not only was this a whole new job for me, but I had to leave to work in this job, which is based in Galway. I had to leave Dublin. Like, I had never been outside of Dublin from Donegal. I spent 4 years in college and 6 years teaching in Dublin. So 10 years spent in Dublin. So I actually did not know one single person in Galway. I knew nothing about the area. And not only did I have to start a new job, but I had to really start a new life. And I often say to people, it was nearly as if I'd moved abroad anyway, because I literally had zero anchors in Galway. I didn't have anyone to move in with. I had no friends. None of my friends went to college here. They all happened to be Dublin based. So it was this whole new life began. So that was daunting, number one. The second thing was I was entering into an industry which I heard about, and I'd heard a lot of good things about and a lot of bad things about. And I kind of knew and expected it to be tough and cutthroat. And I suppose in ways I have seen that side of it, but in other ways it hasn't been as negative as I possibly thought it would be. I guess I myself worried. And one of the things I do have to attribute to that is TG Caher as well. And like, I don't want to keep banging the TG Caher wagon, like, but the thing is, they really deserve it. And it's a real family environment out there. So the studios are based in Connemara. You know, it's a small workforce who work there.
I was in Connemara once, Micheal. You might remember where I was out there now, wouldn't I?
Today, we took you're at home screaming. Do you remember?
I do. I still have flashbacks from how poorly I drew those donuts. But go on. Anyway,
the donuts. Yeah. So you got the gist. So I mean, it's rural. It's very rural, very rural, but it's a real lovely, amazing and supportive workforce. So they really help me. Now look, has there been negatives? Absolutely. There's been negatives. Look, when anyone in the public eye is going to get negatives. And I think, you know, no matter what you do or don't do, people will find fault with you. So I guess I always knew my weakness was my Irish wasn't fluent as a native speaker Irish. And my grammar isn't perfect. And I'd be the first to say that. I wasn't the only person to say that, because there was lots of, like, you know, in terms of like Twitter, you know, not great at times. And I have seen sides of Twitter, and I've seen social media, and I've seen things about me, and I've had different experiences happening over the years. I won't go into all of them now, but I have had negative experiences where people have targeted me, and online particularly, and in real life, and in the real fear hill as well. It's happened. But I have to say, having said that, like 98% has been positive and supportive. So it's really isolated incidences. But yeah, it has happened. But I mean, I think anyone putting himself out there anyway, it's part of the job. You can't expect that it's all going to be rosy, because, you know, when you're on TV and when you're on, you know, putting yourself out there, you're in a privileged position, and you are lucky to be there, because there's so few positions that are like it there, and a lot of people are working with you to develop you, and there's a lot of, you know, you're getting a lot from that. So you have to accept the fact that there are negatives to this. And one of the negatives I found to it was, on occasion, these isolated incidences that happened that, you know, were trying to bring me down, you know, tearing you apart online, trying, I suppose, to whatever. But look, through those events too, you grow yourself. I mean, you might react badly the first time, and then you kind of get over it. And now come to a stage where it still happens occasionally, but you just kind of, you learn to deal with it, you know, and you learn to accept that someone.
How do you deal with it, Micheal, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what is your strategy when it comes to it? Like, now, through your years of experience, if you were to see something about yourself online now, or even a comment under something that you posted yourself, like, how do you deal with things online?
I've gotten better. Like, I suppose one of the ways I dealt with it was, maybe it wasn't the best way to deal with it, but I kind of withdrew a lot from social media. So in my latter years in TG Cahir, particularly when the social media kind of revolution came, and I was kind of being moved off the TV onto fronting the social media platforms, which were great, like, and that was totally the way to go. You know, it started becoming a kind of case where, when you're on TV, you're a professional and you're delivering lines and you're interviewing, and it's all part of your job. And when you're on social media, what I found then, suddenly you're on your phone and it's a lot more intrusive, and you're kind of giving a lot of yourself away, and it's a lot more personality, and you're doing it in your house, and people can contact you at any stage. Whereas, you know, on TV, you talk to a camera in a studio and you can totally ignore it. So I found that it was a lot more immediate, the kind of interaction, and sometimes abuse, you know. And how I dealt with, but one of the ways I dealt with it, I was saying, I suppose I started to withdraw a bit from it, and I kind of stopped doing the whole talk to my Instagram, you know, vloggy style thing. I just didn't feel, okay, I can't say it was totally because of people's reaction to it. That isn't true. I actually felt that I was growing out of it anyway, and I felt that I wasn't being myself, and I felt that it was a younger person's game. And I guess I realized, you know, you look at a lot of these people who write these things, and you often find it from anonymous accounts, and you'll very rarely see someone with a face that will say something, and you kind of feel like, okay, well, this is, you know, if they can't say it to me themselves, then it's not really accurate. They're trying to elicit a reaction as if to say something that they actually mean, because they really meant it. They would publicly say it from their account, you know. So look, I don't know if I have a solution to dealing with it. I guess I've just gotten better, Daniel. One of the things at the beginning I used to do was talk to producers and work about it. I used to say, today or that came in. And then I talked to friends and family. Talking was definitely is something that I do enjoy, and I do find helps me. And then I suppose talking to others who are in a similar position to me, people who are in presenting as well, and who got this kind of thing and who get this. So, you know, there's probably no hard set formula that I have, but I guess time is a healer, and you do just build up those resistances through experience, you know.
Good man. Yeah. So now, as well as all of that, so we've had Micheal the teacher, and we've had Micheal the TV presenter. We still have, thankfully, we still have both. Now we also have Micheal the entrepreneur, right? So as if you weren't doing enough with your life, you've set up your own business. Can you please tell the audience as to what it is you're doing with your new venture?
I sound like you here with all those kind of things going on. Like,
you know. Right out my own heart, and you're like, anyway, Annie and Kiro Gela.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, look, was it the plan? No. Like everything else in my life, it's kind of not come to me. I don't want to say that because that sounds very like I deserve it, whatever. But it seems to be where my path has taken me. So the business that I have is my own production company, which is a broadcasting and TV production company essentially. So what we do is we make TV programs, and we make what we found in the last year or two because of COVID is we've ended up working with a lot of big corporates and helping them put their events online and sculpting their events into kind of TV quality productions that might go out on TV or they might go out in their own online platforms. So where did this come from? Well, I mean, look, 6 years in TG Cahir trained me very, very well. As I said to you, I went from the studio, which was the TV, for 3 years, where I was doing 6 days a week of live links for 3 full years. That was Micheal, the presenter. Then suddenly there was the social media, which came along, and it was produced social media. It wasn't all just selfie style and TikToks. In fact, there was no TikToks at all then. But a lot of it was actually produced work. So, I got trained up in producing and directing, and because we have a small workforce out there, and because the world and the whole communications kind of world is changing, it's not just a case now where you have a guy who does sound and a guy who directs, or a girl who produces, or a girl who, it's like, you're expected to do a lot more now. So in TG Cahir, when I was presenting these social media shows, I also ended up producing them and researching them and directing them and helping edit them with editors and stuff. So I was learning all these new skills, and that was great, and it was going well. And 2 years, I did 2 or 3 years of that, and it was really, really great. And I suppose I always knew that I wanted, one part of me that's always been there is I do want a new challenge or the next thing. And you can see that from when I was teaching, and after 6 years, I needed a change. I wanted to just go and do something else. I had done 6 years in TV at this stage, and I suppose I wanted the next challenge. And because, the platform that I work with, Block, brilliant platform, it was heading in a direction that was probably more kind of focused in on 18 to 22-year-olds. And there was no issue with that. It was right to do that. But I'm 33 this year, and I kind of felt, maybe I'm not the best fit for this because, for example, I mentioned TikTok there, they were developing TikTok hugely, and TikTok wouldn't be something that I would be native in, and I was feeling to myself, well, maybe it's better that someone who actually, an 18, 19-year-old who actually uses TikTok themselves can use it in the platform. So one of the reasons was for the platform itself. Maybe that is going in a different direction now. The second thing was I realized that I really started enjoying the more produced side, and not the kind of rough content that's now huge on social media, which is huge and it's got its place. But I found that my interests lay in where I kind of started off in TV, which was the studios, the producing, the links, the rehearsals, the pieces of camera, and I suppose I've always been really into that. Like, I used to remember even before I was in TV, I'd often be watching backstage documentaries in the galleries and seeing all the people together. So I realized I had an interest in that. And I guess for me then, the option was I could stay where I was and keep going. And that was fine. And I was enjoying it. And we were all getting on great. Or I could do something else. And I think COVID came, I should say. Yes. COVID came. And this is just very much last year. And, I was kind of thinking, I was starting to get a lot of emails in from other companies, for example, the National Dairy Council, the Department of Education, the Department of Agriculture, and they knew me from TG Cahir, and they knew I was involved in social media there, and they were kind of emailing, asking for my advice. They were like, oh my God, here we are now, our events are all off, what are we going to do with our budgets? We need to cater for young people still. Can you give us advice as to how you would recommend guiding that process? And then they were asking me to present things for them online. And I was like, hold on a second, why not go a further step? And I said, well, I can present something for you, but why not let's come up with new formats that I can work on you with together, and we can actually produce new, TV quality, high-end premium content, as opposed to just present on a green screen. And I said, I've done that before at TG Cahir, let's work on this. And then we produced a series for the Dairy Council that went down really, really well. Then another one came along. Then suddenly this explosion of emails came in from arts festivals and, chefs looking for content online. And suddenly I was kind of snowed under because I was working part-time at TG Caher at this stage. Then I was having all these things on the side with my own company that I kind of found it on the side. It was kind of more a hobby at that stage. And I was like, hold on, I can't do both here. So I'm going to have a decision. So I either keep on going with TG Caher and what I'm doing now, or you know, I go for the next challenge for me or the next step. And I guess I decided, you know what, I always need a new challenge, and I love change. And look, I definitely always wanted my own business. Another thing that was never really going to happen, but it is in my family. My family, my grandfather and all would have ran business in Donegal for years, and I would definitely been bitten by that bug. And I always would have had that flair about me, but I never really knew what I wanted to do. I always imagined that I would love to have a product to sell online. I was obsessed with the websites back in the day, and the internet, and I always wanted to have a product to sell online. That was always, if I was going to go that way, that's where I was going to go. But obviously that wasn't the way it's gone. But then this opportunity arose, and I was like, you know what? I kind of ready for a change now. I'm ready for the next step. I want my own business. I feel like I can bring something to the table here. I feel like I can add. I can, you know, I know what I do. I can do well, and I can definitely help different people out. And it also means I know I can work on the things that I want to work on, like education focused, maybe, definitely the beginning, and produced content. And that's kind of where it came from, like, you know. And
it's great, man. It's great. And you know, like, that happens, it happened organically. The market essentially came to you. So that means you know there's something good happening. You're not actually going proactively looking for it. It just comes your way. And knowing that you wanted to do your own thing and be an entrepreneur, set up your own business, well, then, you know, the world just created. But it's like, it was the effort that you were putting in anyway, and then the market just respected and put value on the stuff that you were doing. But I do get that, where you're balancing two balls for as long as you can, but then when it comes to prioritize, you got to go with your own stuff, don't you? Like, because that's your future and that's your investment, and that'll be your baby. But you've served everybody as well as you could up until the point that we had to jump. And, like, you know, I would have been similar in a lot of ways there. Before I went fully into DTW stuff, I was doing something similar, but just for other people, and that's okay. And I think that's naturally how it goes. And how have you found it so far? So it's still early days, of course, and you said this only struck you like in the last 12 months or so, but like amazing that like during COVID and the pandemic and everything else, where other people might have been slower in terms of their work, it looks like you've kicked on. Like you've, like, that's great, man. You're the few there. That's the minority, I'd say.
Yeah, like, I mean, look, COVID in a way has been helpful to what we do, because, you know, a lot of companies do need that extra work, and channels as well come to us, and they want content produced with maybe lower budgets, but with smaller crews, because they obviously, you know, the big productions now can't happen because of COVID. So they're looking, there's a lot of demand there for, you know, the smaller crew format, but still high enough quality content, I guess. So that's kind of where we come in. So it was definitely the right time to do it. I mean, it's now February 2021. This, like, the company, you could say, began really March last year, but I really took it as a full-time position last July of 2020. And I mean, it's come to a stage now, you know, 7 months later, where we're probably looking at hiring staff, you know, on a part-time basis, because we're getting projects in now and we want to do a lot of them, but it's manpower we need now, because you know, there's a lot coming in together at once. So we're in a great place. You know, and one thing I really have to say is, like, you know, to give them credit as well, as the Irish language organizations have really and the TG Cahers and the Virgin Media as well, you know, the Irish broadcasters and the Irish companies have really come and supported us, and they've believed in us. And even though we may not have had the portfolio behind us yet because we're so new, they've given us the budgets, they've given us the opportunity, and so far we've been able to kind of perform to their expectations. So, you know, we're very thankful to them for taking the risk as well. So it's all very, and you know, I know how hard this year was for so many people, and I know that a lot of my friends who are working in this industry, the cameramen, the camerawomen, the directors, the freelancers, have been really, you know, they've been abandoned, they've been put on the PUP, and they're really demotivated at the moment. So we're very fortunate to be able to kind of see the other side of it, I suppose. One of the things we're able to do too is we're able to kind of hopefully employ some of these people on a short-term basis and give them some work. And definitely Gaelic is so central to what we do. And I mean, it's given me, in my whole life, it's given me opportunities. And, you know, we're very, very conscious of giving back to that kind of a market as well. So, just help each other, you know.
Fantastic, man, and I respect you so much for it. Fair play. Like that does sound awesome. I'm delighted for you because you deserve it. Like, and you might say that, you would never say that things land in your lap because that implies that you deserve it. But like, hard people deserve the rewards, and hard-working people, I should say. And you're going hard in everything that you do, and that it deserves kind of the strike of luck that you have been getting in a lot of ways. But it's also seeing the opportunity and your mindset around it. And, that's definitely something you've obviously done this year. Because as you said, like the reason I set up this podcast last year was that I just knew that like in my social group, but also just like from the job that I do and what the work I do with, a lot of people were struggling and a lot of people still are. And even now, I think with this third lockdown, especially, people are, it's a lot of people are going through a tough time at the moment, and there's stressors in their life that never were before. And the new ones are, complicated and complex, and a lot of people don't have the same distractions that maybe you and I have. So, again, the premise of the podcast is health and happiness and how to cultivate that in oneself. And through self-care, mindset, lifestyle, what do we people do that help them, whether it's a pandemic or just prior to COVID-19? What is the stuff that you do, Micheal? And if you're feeling down or if you want to kind of improve your mood, what are the things you do for yourself in that respect?
Yeah, and I mean, cheapers, it's happened loads, and I really have found a lot of days this year challenging, like everybody else out there. And I think as well, it's funny because I'm working for myself now, but I'm spending a lot of time by myself now as well. Whereas, last year, for example, when I was working remotely, I would have been working remotely and had 18 Zoom calls with 4 different people in departments, which was kind of interaction. But I found it very isolating this year. I found it really difficult. And I found boredom as being one of the huge things. Boredom in terms of once work's over, once the working day ends or the weekend's here, it's like, what are the options to do? And I have, I've had to really look at myself, and I probably maybe the time I didn't really want to see what am I about myself as a person, because we've talked a lot about Micheal work and employment and whatnot, and that, I suppose that's a huge part of me, but sometimes that's probably too much of me. And I know, like, one of my biggest weaknesses, and I've realized this over COVID, and one of the things that I really have to work on is my interpersonal relationships with other people. And I'm talking about friends, like I really would say that I haven't been the best friend that I could be to a lot of people. I feel like a lot of my friends have made huge efforts with me over the years, particularly since I left Dublin and went to Galway. And, I kind of, not decided, but I got very kind of absorbed in my job and in the TV industry and in now my new business and stuff. And, small examples of that would be leaving people on scene. And, I get a message in and I say, this great message, I must reply to later on or tomorrow. And then it doesn't happen. And even now I'm looking at my phone and there's people that I actually haven't gotten back to, got on to me in October, November. And part of it is busy. Like, work is very busy and whatever. But look, it's no excuse, because I still have an hour or 2 hours a day where I could do that, but maybe I choose not to. And I feel like now, having had this year in isolation, and I'm actually living by myself at the moment because my housemate's gone to LA. So I really am by myself at the moment. And I'm thinking to myself, I really need friends, and I need my friends, and I need people. And I've kind of let that go, and I have to really work on that. And it's something that, I've known it for a while, but life has distracted me, and I've had my, busy social life and the nights out and all that kind of thing that's now gone, to not think about it. And I really have to improve upon that. It's something that I really, really have to work on.
Well, look, and there's power in that awareness, and like to be able to, identify that as some place that you'd like to improve upon. But the thing is, for people like you and I, Micheal, it's almost impossible to keep all these connections and relationships going when you've achieved what you have achieved and what you've done, because your time is more limited than other people, and those people that might be messaging you, that's, a message within their 6 hours of the day that's free. And like, you have to kind of give yourself cut yourself some slack in that respect as well. And this is me kind of speaking from my own perspective too, because I have the same qualms about, the choices I've made over the last few years. But to set up a business, to change careers, to change cities, like it's there's a lot of dynamics that you have to control and give your energy to. But now that things seem to be in order, and I say this for myself as well, like that things settle, you have more time to, develop these interpersonal relationships as well. And they are so important, almost more important, I would say, than the stuff that we achieve on a kind of monetary or, professional level. But you have to give both adequate time and attention. And when you're starting something from scratch like you have, there's not a whole lot of space for anything else. And that's my experience with it, at least. But the beautiful thing is that we're such young men that we can still, with the rest of our lives now, to kind of get other things in order.
Yeah.
And I think for everybody to know that nobody's ever the finished article, and people would look at you, Micheal, no doubt, and have, you from an external perspective, it's an envious lifestyle, and you've achieved a lot. And there's a lot of people that would look at you as kind of a role model in terms of what you've achieved, and people from, Donegal would see it, people from Marino would see it, and you'd inspire, and the thing is to know that even the people that inspire are still a work in progress, and nobody is perfect, and there's all things that we want to fix in our lives. But I do feel as though with a guy like you, it would have been a lot to ask for you to have these really strong interpersonal relationships that you've had for the last decade, and for them to be still as strong now after achieving what you've achieved and built what you've built. That's asking a lot, Micheal. So I'd say give yourself a bit of credit there, bud. You're not doing too bad. Yeah, you're not a bad lad. You're not a bad lad. But the thing is, now it's time to, maybe if you're happier, to kind of, fix all those things. But I'd be the same as you, and it's good to kind of like hone in on the things that we would like to make us to be healthier and happier, because then proactive action can come from that. But if you keep the head in the sand, that probably is always going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But that's good. That is good. And so. But look, that's something that hit me there now, because I was like, fucking hell, that's the exact same stories I have. But I think that's understandable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you said, work in progress, so much so. There's so many things I want to do, even though, so I've neglected some friendships, relationships. I guess one of the reasons for that as well, not an excuse in any way, and I'm not trying to say I'm really popular, but I do have a lot of friends because I have been involved in so many different things. I have my music friends, I have my teaching friends, I have my media friends, I have a huge family at home I have nearly 80 something cousins, so there's a lot of different things going on there. Obviously I have my close friends too, and in fairness, I'm actually decent enough with them. Not perfect, but decent enough. So there's kind of that too. But totally, when you talk about the work in progress, I so relate to that. And one example of that, and something simple that I could do and should do, and it's on this list that just needs to get done, but I keep avoiding, is I have so many books upstairs, and I really want to read books. And fiction books, that's entertainment, but I actually want to read a lot of books in psychology, and actually that's something I meant to say. There's something I was really interested in school.
That right shelf is all psychology, by the way. That top shelf is PhD stuff. So if you're ever alone, I'll throw them at you, no bother.
But see, this is it. And I actually applied for the UCAS, the English version of the CAO in the North, to do psychology in Queen's back in the day. So that was another thing I wanted to do, and I really wanted to do that as well. But that kind of went. But if I'm really interested in it, but I really want to read up, and I really want to work on those kind of improvement things and self-improvement. And I can't get down on myself. I mean, I am sometimes I'm oversensitive. Sometimes I am. My mother's the same. I kind of attribute taking it from her. I can take things to heart. I can misread situations. Not always, but sometimes I do. So there's a lot of things like that I want to work on, and I feel like I am. I'm feeling good. I feel like I'm in control of myself well, and that. But there's always room for improvement, and I definitely that is so this year now. Now that the DIY is done last year, and the business has been set up, and the house has been painted, there's still free time. This COVID thing is still ongoing. So this is what I really want to do. I really want to read those books. I really want to learn. I really want to self-develop.
Nice, man. Nice. And I feel as though, for me personally, once you take that choice and that you decide that's what you want to do, it's kind of a never-ending journey, and it's just beautiful because you see, whether you know it or not, subconsciously you're taking in what you're reading through these books, and you're actioning the next day, and you're feeling the progress. And it's holy shit, this works. And it was right, next book, next more. And that knowledge, I feel as though it's a never-ending journey. But the first thing is to decide that you're curious and you're interested in this area. But once you do that self-growth and self-development, you get that growth engine going, and it is a lovely feeling. It is, and those sort of books would be I'm very fortunate. Well, it was a choice that I made 3 years ago, but the subject that I'm studying at a doctoral level is the stuff that I think I'd be going into bookstores buying anyway. It's just really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm delighted you're interested in that. And sure, look, we can have a chat another point. I can give you a few recommendations. But
yes.
And Micheal, like, so if people wanted it, for all of those things that you're involved in, right, and you're involved in loads, and I'm very grateful that you've come on today because I know how busy you are, and we've touched on a lot of it. But like, if somebody listening to this podcast wanted to touch base with you, or wanted to know more about your business, or what's the best way to get in contact with Micheal for more information?
Website, I suppose, is handy enough because it's easy to remember. It's MOC, the number 2, MOC squared. So do you get the MC squared?
Oh, very good, very good. I didn't get it because I'm a bit taken in that respect too. Like.
I have to say, it may have been better thought out, but
no, that's more. Like,
I'm going to keep hammering it home. It's going to stick eventually. So MOC2, so it's spelled MOC2.ie, MOC squared, MOC2.ie is our website, and then I'm on all the social media platforms still. I'm on Instagram. Instagram is probably the best. Facebook as well. Micheal O'Keery, you'll probably stick it up somewhere underneath.
Yeah, for sure.
And look, absolutely, if people want to get in touch, I will get back. I actually am saying this now because I'm laughing because I got 3 emails 2 days ago from people. I still haven't replied them, but they're on my list today.
Oh, you weren't lying about needing staff. You weren't lying. Get something in there.
Get a reply. I can't guarantee something in 24 hours, but no, look, absolutely. And particularly if anyone, if I trigger anything, anybody, or if anyone can relate or wants advice on anything, I always will try and help that. And, look, someone was asking me recently about advice in a new business, and I don't really feel totally qualified to talk about that yet because I'm not even a year going yet. But I mean, anything that I can help with, I totally will, and always welcome in the DMs or emails or whatever that works.
Brilliant, Micheal. And like you said something in the middle of this interview that really resonated with me, and you said a lot of really things that I think a lot of people get a lot of value from. But you said what works for you, and you've always been an advocate, is the power of talking and the power of conversation and dialogue. And if anybody really what you said there in terms of, I really respect you for saying it. If anybody was triggered or there's something that comes up here that might have been a bit sensitive to, you can reach out to any one of us, and we would love to be able to chat to you about it further. But Micheal, I know you've inspired me, and you have since the day we met, but you've done a lot of great work, and I know you'll continue to do so, and I can't wait to see how this journey unfolds, because you're going to do amazing things. You already have, and I'm really grateful that you've come on today to chat to me, because I've had a lot of fun. But I always have. Any encounter, we have the crack, and I hope that we'll do this again. But Micheal, you're an absolute gent, so thanks so much for coming on, okay?
Thanks a million, Daniel.
And guys, it's nothing but love, and I will see you all again next week. But Micheal, I'm really, really grateful for your time today, because I know how busy you are. Now go reply to some emails, will you? Send them out some DMs. Just respond to your fans, Micheal. Go on, take it easy.